Upbeat, storytelling, intro music begins and fades into the background in a forgotten corner of an old, rambling farmhouse. A community of tiny mice lived in constant, heart-pounding fear. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle in the walls, sent a shiver through their little bodies. Why? Because Whiskers, the farm's cunning and ruthless cat, was always on the prowl, a silent shadow with claws like daggers. His green eyes seemed to glow in the dark, and his favorite pastime was terrorizing the smallest inhabitants of the house. Behind the dusty pantry, tucked away in a small, cozy hole, was the mice's hidden village. It was a place of warmth and family, but lately, a cloud of dread hung over it. By the flickering candlelight of their tiny lanterns, dozens of mice would gather each night, their faces etched with worry. The community was shrinking. Every morning, another friend, another family member, was missing, lost to the silent predator. The cheese in the pantry, the crumbs on the floor all seemed like traps, not treats. One evening, the atmosphere was particularly heavy. The old mouse, a patriarch with fur as gray as the winter sky and eyes full of weary wisdom, finally spoke. He tapped his cane on the dusty floor to get everyone's attention. "Listen to me, all of you," he said, his voice trembling but firm. "We cannot go on like this. We live in the shadow of death. If we don't find a way to act, and act now, I fear none of us will be here to see the next sunrise." His words hung in the air, a grim but necessary truth. Just as despair threatened to consume them all, a small, young mouse named Pip squeaked up. He was usually quiet, but tonight, his eyes shone with a spark of an idea. He scurried to the center of the gathering, his whiskers twitching with excitement. I have an idea," he announced. "What if, what if we put a bell on the cat? A tiny, shiny bell around Whiska's neck. That way, whenever he moves, whenever he's near, we'll hear him coming. We'll have time to hide, to get to safety." For a moment, there was stunned silence. Then, a wave of whispers turned into a roar of cheers. Hope, a feeling long forgotten, surged through the tiny village. "A bell! Of course! Pip, you're a genius!" The mice began to chatter excitedly, their fear replaced by a sudden rush of optimism. They started to imagine a new life, a fearless life. They pictured themselves dancing freely in the moonlight spilling across the kitchen floor, nibbling on cheese without a care in the world, and laughing without constantly looking over their shoulders. The nightmare, it seemed, was finally over. The solution was so simple, so perfect. But then, as the cheers began to die down, the old mouse slowly pushed himself to his feet again. The room fell quiet, sensing the weight of his presence. He looked around at all the hopeful faces, his gaze finally resting on young Pip. His voice was calm, but it carried a gravity that instantly sobered the room. "My dear children," he began, "that is a truly clever and brilliant idea indeed. It would solve all our problems." He paused, letting the anticipation build. "But tell me," he continued, his voice dropping to a near whisper, Who among us will bell the cat?" Absolute silence. A pin-drop silence that was heavier than any fear they had felt before. The cheerful energy evaporated in an instant. The mice looked at each other, then at their paws, then at the floor. No one moved, no one spoke, no one volunteered. Even Pip, the brave little dreamer who had come up with the plan, couldn't meet the old mouse's gaze. He lowered his head, the brilliant light in his eyes dimming. The question hung in the air, unanswered and unanswerable. As if on cue, a sudden noise from outside, their hole, shattered the tense silence. Thud, scratch, a long, menacing mara. The terrifying shadow of Whiskers, magnified by the moonlight, passed right by their entrance. Panic erupted. Squeaks of terror filled the air as the mice scattered in every direction, scrambling for the deepest, darkest corners of their home. The brief moment of courage, the glimmer of hope, was snuffed out in a wave of primal fear. The brilliant idea of the bell, once a beacon of freedom, faded away like a forgotten dream. As the night grew quiet again and the danger passed, the mice huddled together, The earlier excitement, a distant memory. The old mouse, watching them from his corner, sighed softly. He whispered to the young ones nearest to him, a final, somber lesson for the night. "It is easy to talk of brave deeds and clever plans," he said gently. "But true courage lies not in the idea, but in the action. A great plan is worth nothing without someone brave enough to carry it out." And in the quiet of the mouse, the timeless truth settled over them all. Some things are much easier said than done. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story and the lesson it holds, please give this video a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe for more fables and tales that make you think. See you next time.